rollers in the building. Somebody gotta get some money. Remix! Are you ready to beat the devil?
A lot of cash, a little luck, and the funkiest host on the West Coast. It's the Joker's Wild.
You gotta tell us what Wiz is referring to. Roll the clip.
Al, MC, squared. Enough said.
What is it? What do you think? What could it be?
Fat Albert? I don't know.
Fat Albert. Hey, hey, hey. What is it, Will?
Albert Einstein.
Spin that wheel, man.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
A very warm welcome to this week's 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the world. I'm Sam Sambo. Let's take a look at the headlines. The People's Democratic Party sets up committee to zone national offices ahead of convention in October, as committee declares it has no power to zone president and vice presidential tickets. Nigeria's neo-political movement to emerge on October 1 as proponents of the third force get set to challenge APC and PDP in 2023 by dissolving into a political party. President Muhammadu Buhari speaks to world leaders at the 76th session of the UN General Assembly as he makes strong case for Africa in the area of terrorism, vaccine availability, instability on the continent, and proliferation of arms. Back. The race for the 2023 general election is on as Nigeria's main opposition parties already putting strategies in place in its bid to unseat the governing All Progressives Congress, the APC. A zoning committee set up by the PDP National Executive Committee, chaired by the governor of Enugu State, Ugwuanyi, to look into the zoning of national offices has been meeting over the matter. Party members say the outcome of the zoning committee will determine what part of the country the PDP presidential ticket will swing. But Governor Ugwuanyi clarifies that the committee has no mandate to zone political offices, especially where the presidential and vice presidential candidates would emerge from. He says the committee is strictly limited to the PDP National Working Committee offices to be contested at the 2021 PDP National Convention, scheduled for next month. Members are now keen to find out how the party will resolve the issues, especially the leadership crisis that has seen some PDP members urging incumbent national chairman Uche Secondus to resign.
We had a fruitful meeting and we are adjourned to conclude next week. Thank you all. We had a fruitful meeting.
Joining me to look at these issues is Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Deron Odeyemi, who's joining us from Osun State virtually. And in the studio, I have with me Emmanuel Ume, who is a good governance advocate and political strategist. You're all welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, and I would like to just start with you immediately, Deron, if you can hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
What's your general overview of that conclusion, which a lot of people have described as inconclusive by Governor Ugwuanyi's committee meeting? You could hear him saying that they had adjourned till next week, but a lot of party members are unsettled by that adjournment, considering how late it is between now and end of October, when we should be having the PDP National Convention coming full swing.
Thank you very much for the question. It is not out of place for party members to be anxious. They really want to know what's going to be the outcome of the meeting. And at the same time, the committee consists of eminent personalities, people who are experienced, people who want the party to succeed in 2023, and they don't have to rush the assignment. They have time to do a lot of consultation, to meet among themselves, dialogue, and for the mere fact that they met one day, it does not mean they should conclude immediately. So what they are doing right now is just to have a research, communicate, and speak with leaders the more, so that at the end of the day, whatever is going to be the outcome of their decision will be acceptable and applauded by the party members. So it's just a break, which we are all happy that is happening, because it gives room for dialogue and for consultation.
Thank you so much. And I'll come back to you, Ume, here. I mean, there have been lots of anxiety in the PDP over this zoning matter. Why is it so important to members to actually know what areas this zoning will go to? And then why is it that we're also having agitation that the previous zoning in 2017 should be maintained? The national chairmanship should go south, while the presidential ticket should actually go north.
For me, I think one of the reasons why there's this agitation or so much clamor on the PDP right now is, if you look at what has happened in the last 6 years with the APC, it's shown that they failed to deliver on their promises, and Nigerians are relying or hoping that the PDP will put their acts together and then get themselves together and then perform the work of an opposition, and at the same time clinch government in 2023. So it's understandable that you see this kind of reactions from Nigeria, especially. There's so much interest in the PDP, especially zoning. So it's understandable that these things will happen. As to where it should go, whether the chairmanship to go to the south or to the north, I think in the wisdom of many of the party faithfuls that I have spoken with, they believe that if the chairmanship goes down south, especially say southwest, it brings a lot of inclusivity with the southwest back to the national politics, especially within the party. So it's understandable, but the whole issue right now is, if it goes down south, is it an automatic disqualification for people within the southern region to contest for the presidency? I think that in the coming days or in the coming weeks.
But what do party members like you actually want for the party?
For me, honestly speaking, I'm from the southern region, right? So automatically my bias would definitely want to go towards the south. But
in the chairmanship or in the presidential ticket?
No, the chairmanship. But if you look at if you're going to juxtapose what has happened in the last 16 years, when the PDP was in power, you see that the North has only had power in the PDP 3 years, and then the South has had power for 13 years. So there's this whole call of equity and fairness that you've only had power within this party for just 3 years. Now another dynamics would be that you just had an 8 year, or we're going to have an 8 years northern president that is currently in power. So will it be fair to have another northerner become president? I think if you look at it both ways, the arguments are genuine and it's logical. But I feel Nigerians should just give the committee time to just do their work. I believe, like he said, there are eminent men and women in that committee. In the coming days, we'll definitely get to know where the zone is going.
Okay, we'll just have to go to Mr. Duron now. if you can hear me, Mr. Deron, we have had this preponderance of a lot of chairmanship candidates actually coming from the southwest of the country. And a lot of people are beginning to say that this looks like the PDP leaders trying to compensate the southwest for never having had the opportunity to run the party since 1999. But also considering that there's a talk about a southern presidency, would you want to welcome that decision for the South to still get this chairmanship slot in the face of agitations for a Southern presidency in 2023?
Your question is hypothetical. It is like if and when. I would rather want to leave the committee with the decision to come out with their resolution and decision before we can start politicking, because we can start conjectures, because we can start other plans. Now, the argument that if the presidency comes to if the chairmanship comes to the South as compensation for the Southwest does not arise simply because the committee has not come up with a decision. I would rather want us to wait as a party man and somebody who is enlightened, somebody who wants the best for the party. After all, there are 44 eminent personalities, former governors, former senators, present senators, members of BOT. They were quite carefully chosen and selected to represent each interest group within the party. So let us wait and allow them to do their job. Until they come up with their decision, we will not be able to say whether the presidency is going to the South or the chairmanship is going to the North. Everything we are going to say here today perhaps may not have meaning, or we will be preempting the committee if we start conjuring or trying to say this or that. So let us leave it at that. We are waiting on the committee to submit their report.
Yes, but while we'll await that, the governors have called for a meeting next week, a day before the zoning committee will meet again. Aren't you afraid that the PDP governors may, in one way or the other, be trying to influence the outcome of the zoning committee meeting?
That is politics. It is normal. It is expected. They are our leaders. And politics is about intrigues. It's about trying to outsmart each other. There is nothing wrong if the North are now saying, yes, we want to be president, let's zone the chairmanship to the South. And there is nothing wrong if the South are now saying, yes, we want to be president, let's give the chairmanship to the North. It's all politics. I'm not afraid, I'm not apprehensive. Let the governors come, let them talk, let them dialogue among themselves. They are reasonable enough to know what is good for PDP and what formula will be propounded for us to win election in 2023. So there's no apprehension, there's no fear about it. They are our leader. Let them meet, let them take a decision that will be binding on all of us.
All right, very interesting. Just very quickly before we go on a break, are you among those who subscribe to, the governors bringing one of them to take over that position of chairmanship?
One of them in this case, you mean
because
a former governor?
we've had, a former governor. Because, like, for example, a lot of people are saying that Oyinlola should be the first among equals, among former governors, because he has a charisma. He's been the secretary of the party before and all of that.
I think for me, the names I've heard that wants to contest the position of the chairmanship, everybody I've heard, they are eminently qualified. So I'm not, I won't say this person over this. But I believe that everybody...
But a lot of party experience is needed, considering that
course.
People have said that the PDP has made a mess of the opposition that is supposed to actually play against the All Progressives Congress.
No, I don't accept that the PDP has made a mess of the opposition.
Well, that's what people have been alleging. But I'm sure when we come back from this break, we'll continue on that, because it's a very strong issue that has been debated within the polity. It's time for us to go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo, and we're still taking a critical look at the issues surrounding the PDP and its zoning of political party offices. Although the committee that has been set up by the PDP is zoning offices of the National Working Committee, that decision will go a long way in determining what geopolitical zone will produce the 2023 presidential candidate of the party. A committee led by Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed had earlier recommended that the 2023 presidential ticket be left open to all geopolitical zones. We'll now take a look at how the race for the national chairmanship in Nigeria's two biggest political parties, the PDP and APC, will shape the 2023 presidential contest, considering that the Southern Governors Forum have insisted that the next president must come from that region. Let's take this report. The race for the 2023 presidency is already on course through a familiar path. Nigeria's biggest political parties, the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party, are all set to have their convention between October and December this year, where new national chairmen and party officials will be elected into the national working committees. While the governing APC has 11 contestants, mainly from the northern zone, seeking the chairmanship position, the PDP has 6 aspirants that are mainly from the south, seeking to contest. Top on the list of APC aspirants are Senator Tanko Almakura, Senator Kashim Shatima, Minister of Special Duties George Akume, Senator Mohammed Musa, Sonny Moni Dafe, Salihu Mustafa, former Bauchi Governor Isa Yuguda, former Zamfara Governor Abdulaziz Yari, former Borno Governor Ali Modu Sharif. While party members from the North Central, Northeast and Northwest have all been seeking a zoning of the APC chairmanship to their areas, others say the real battle is among former governors who are being backed by incumbent governors to emerge. The huge number of the APC chairmanship aspirants from the north is now being read by party members and Nigerians as a sign that the presidential ticket of the party will be zoned to the south. For the PDP, the major contenders are Olagunsoye Oyinlola, Uche Secondus, Bode George, Dan Obi, Eitayo Jegede, and Jimmy Agbaje. While some PDP members have been agitating for the chairmanship to be zoned to the north, so that the party's presidential ticket will be zoned to the south, many of the members are shocked to see majority of the contenders coming from southern Nigeria. With a zoning committee chaired by Enugu State Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi to work out zoning of party offices, there are now talks that even if the south gets the chairmanship, the presidential ticket of the PDP should be thrown open to all. With the current tendencies now swaying towards a potential APC presidential ticket, with a southern candidate and a potential PDP presidential ticket with a northern candidate, the dilemma is now on how Nigerians may manage the tension that may arise considering the current north-south political rhetoric. As the clock ticks for the APC and PDP national conventions, there is now the call for party leaders and members to save Nigerians from a potential situation that may further stretch the nation's challenges of insecurity. During the 2023 general election, as it happened with post-election violence in 2011 due to the South-North candidacy of Goodluck Jonathan and Muhammadu Buhari. Sumner Sambo, Arise News. All right, I still have with me here Diron Odeyemi, who is the Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, and Emmanuel Ume, who's a political strategist and good governance advocate. I will just come to you to conclude that point you were trying to make before I come back to Odeyemi. The issue of PDP preparing itself as an opposition party that could tackle the APC in the face of accusations by many Nigerians that it hasn't played that role effectively. Do you think that if the PDP is able to manage its internal issues, it can be able to challenge the APC very well? You know, on the issue of whether the PDP has played the role of opposition very well, I believe the PDP has done its very, very best. In the last 6 years, I can count that the PDP has gone on mass protest more than 3 or 4 times. In the last 6 years, the PDP on every issue, if you check, I don't think there's any day that the National Public Secretary of the PDP, Mr. Kola Lobodino, doesn't issue either press conference or press statement. And are those things enough? Because a lot of people say that those are not enough. That's why people are defecting.
I'm coming. there's no day that on national issues that they do not speak on, that concerns the nation. PDP members, whether state or national level, go on different platforms speaking about the misgovernance of this current administration. The issue of whether PDP is playing the opposition, I think there's this fixation of how people want PDP to, run its opposition. We're not going to destroy this country because we want to play opposition. We remember just in 2014 or 2015 when the APC wrote down to the United States government, I am telling them not to even not to make Boko Haram, not to name Boko Haram a terrorist organization. This same party wrote to different organizations. I remember when we wanted to go and get black weapons from the black market. You remember in South Africa, what the role that they played on every issue, especially governors, present governors in APC, the kind of roles that they played. We won't do that because we want to play opposition. We believe, we understand this country, and I've said it before, the PDP as a political party is a democratic institutionalized party. So we won't go through that route of always wanting to, cause brain and just to destroy this nation because we want to play opposition.
So I'll come back to you, Mr. Duron. This is an opportunity for PDP to actually show to Nigerians that it can manage its internal crisis and present an acceptable national chairman to all party members and then give the APC a good fight for its money. You can see the gladiators from the APC who are also contending for the position of national chairmanship. Do you think that the PDP is strong enough to present a formidable front ahead of 2023?
One good thing about PDP is that it is not owned by an individual. And that is why our motto remains power to the people. We are all equal in PDP, irrespective of the position anybody may be holding. And I'm saying this with all emphasis and without fear of favor, that in PDP, there is equal opportunity, and that is what is making the party to remain solid and great. We have our internal mechanism of resolving issues. When Secondus and River State Governor matter came up, people thought that was going to be the end of PDP. But you can see how the party has remained solid, how the party has, continued with its activities without, anybody feeling bad. So whatever is the situation, I just wanted to know that we have this mechanism in PDP that works well for the sustenance of peace and tranquility among the party members. And that is why whatever anybody might want to call a crisis, it's not. We still see it as a family affair, and we still resolve it among ourselves. So very soon, the party is going to produce a national chairman that we usher in our presidential candidates and ensure that 2023 we not only win election, we come back into government.
Interesting submission indeed. But considering that the Southern Governors Forum are insisting that the presidential ticket of the two biggest political parties should go to the South, that the next president must emerge from the southern part of the country, if the South gets the chairmanship in your party, the PDP, wouldn't it be going against the projections of the Southern Governors Forum? Because automatically the North wouldn't want to be left behind. They would want to have the presidential ticket going to them if the South has the PDP national chairmanship. Don't you think that projection will affect the Southern Governors Forum projections too?
The Southern governors have every right to come together and put out an idea. But for the mere fact that they all belong to different political parties does not make peace sacrosanct. Of course, they are Southern governors, but they come from different political parties. What operates in APC is not binding on PDP, and what is binding on PDP will not operate well in APC. So they have the right to say whatever it is they want for themselves or for the country. But we as a political party, we have our own method of doing things. We have our own constitution. We have our own rotational method. We have our own projection too. So then the government forum is not they don't have the final say or the authority on the political party. It is the party that produced these governors. So they cannot, they can say, they can suggest, but their decision is not binding on the political party. That's the difference. So they can project, they can say it, well, good enough.
Very interesting indeed. We must thank you, Mr. Diron Odeyemi, Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, for joining us, and Emmanuel Ume, thank you so much for joining us to actually take a look at this analysis on the PDP.
Thank you.
And it's time for us to go on another short break. When we return, we shall turn our attention to the proposed new political movement, which is promising to wrestle power from both the APC and PDP. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. With Nigeria drifting towards a two-party system, there have been calls for a third force to come into play to provide a better choice for Nigerians, as many believe that the two major political parties are probably one and the same vehicle to power because of the carpet crossing of the same politicians between both parties. It seems the much-awaited third force is finally here with the confirmation by the National Consultative Front that it will, on October 1, unveil its new mega political movement preparatory to them dissolving into one of the smaller political parties before the 2023 general election. Now, the Rescue Nigeria group has lamented the country's major developmental challenges, and it is now combining its strength with the National Consultative Front to birth a larger political movement. They have scheduled a National Rescue Summit on the 1st of October to commemorate the 64th independence anniversary of Nigeria. The star-studded new political movement has many professionals in different fields as political observers keenly await their alternative plans for Nigeria. Well, joining us now is a representative of the Rescue Nigeria project, Aisha Dankani. She is also a lawyer and former candidate of People's Redemption Party for the Dala Federal Constituency in Kano State in the last 2019 general election. Good to have you join us in the studio. Now, let's talk about the Rescue Nigeria group and some of the issues that you have highlighted. You have said that this project is meant to provide an alternative narrative in the country's polity, and that you want to drive the country through a development-based polity that will help to create the needed change that Nigerians need, saying that the APC and PDP don't seem to be driving this country to the right direction. What are those permutations you're working on?
Okay, good evening, Nigerians, and thank you for having me. You see, I don't want to dwell into all the issues. We all know very well as Nigerians where we are and what's wrong in our country. With the worry and all the discussions that have come into place, our fingers, or the definitive finger has been pointed to one thing: leadership. And when you look more deeply, it's the recruitment process that has brought the problems. And because it is the major culprit, we came together, concerned Nigerians who are tired of the status quo, who knows that something has to be done. We don't want to return to our Creator and leave a country for our children. That is what it is. So, all over the country, and names keep coming just automatically because we either know you, your background, your pedigree, or what you stand for. So we invited these Nigerians together, and we felt, let's do something about this country. And what we are doing is to now do things differently.
And what exactly is that? Because Nigerians need to know that you're very different from the two major political parties and other political organizations.
Yeah, what we are saying, think outside the box. What's the problem? Like I told you, we put our finger on leadership, and the recruitment mechanism is wrong. So what we are saying, let's put a criteria so that not just one man sits in a state and everybody else that is supposed to hold an office in the state comes from that man. It's not done that way. It's not done that way anywhere that democracy has worked. So we're now going to put up some criteria format where we now know you're fit for leadership. We have put some core values that we felt we should work around them if we want to produce leaders.
Yes, you identify leadership recruitment as a major challenge, because I was there myself and I listened to lots of persons.
Exactly.
But the route to leadership is what we don't know, how you want to get to that leadership positions by bringing those people on board that you feel are the best hands for the country.
You saw at the back of the board, we wrote ICPC. And ICPC there stood for 4 things. We looked at inclusiveness, we looked at competence, we looked at probity, and we looked at courage as core values. Then we now went in to now say, look, as Nigerians, wherever you're going to stand, we're going to have a chart, a kind of a format to say, look, you have to fit into A, B, C, D, E. And that chart is being put on, and many conversations are now taking place. We are going to stimulate conversations on what the parties will be looking at. Parties that really mean well for this country and really want the real change. We are going to energize the youth into looking at what true development really is and who can deliver. We're going to not just expect, we are going to inspect. So we are pulling a force. We are pulling the strength, the required demography that is being needed to force this change.
And a lot of people are wondering if you're not being academic about these issues, because they just say that when it comes to Nigerian politics and Nigerian politicians, academic matters don't seem to resolve the issues. You have to be very practical. Are you eventually going to adopt one of the smaller parties before the 2023 general elections like we've been hearing? Or don't you think it's late for you even coming on board now? Because some people have said that it looks like you are taking time to come out.
No, we are not a political party, as it is.
Yes, but you're a movement that must use a political party to achieve your aims.
We are going to support courageous people. We are going to support competent people. We are going to support people of integrity. It doesn't matter which party it is. Where the bulk of what we want is being situated, that's where we are going to go. So, and you'll be surprised, within a short period of time, we were in hundreds. But before you know it, we're going to go in thousands. I'm sure many Nigerians like us, those good Nigerians who really want good governance, are much more than this few 1.something% that have held us to ransom and have just, gallivanted from one party to another and appear in just different colors, but they are the same people in different style.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to just take classical example from you. When you wanted to contest, for example, you decided to go to an ideological party,
yes.
The PRP,
yeah.
and you didn't choose the APC or PDP.
Yes.
Why did you take that decision?
Because in that two parties, like you well know, and like all Nigerians know, people of probity, people that really want to serve this nation are not just being given a chance.
And so why did the Nigerians that you're trying to canvass, these issues on their behalf not vote you in your constituency?
They voted for me. I won the elections. But you know what happened in our constituency? There was a third...
And what was that?
Well, you knew what happened when they said inconclusive and all the noise that now surrounded the inconclusive. There are people who we knew came into office whose was not a legitimate way of coming into office. They didn't win the elections. And this is the kind of leadership.
But INEC announced them as winners.
Yeah, but if INEC announce you a winner, you hold the office. But that does not give legitimacy.
Very interesting indeed. Now, aren't you going to see that on a larger scale if, for example, all of you still decide to build yourselves around one candidate? Aren't you afraid that that candidate may be seen as an academic politician and not a practical politician, and Nigerians won't vote for that person for president in 2023?
We are not building ourselves around a candidate. We are building ourselves around these core values and principles that we stand for.
But you must have people who represent those core values.
These are not people that we will put into it. These are people that the values and the principles will automatically bring into bear. And all of us as Nigerians who mean well for this country will agree with whoever emerges. Because it's not going to emerge because we want those candidates to emerge. They are going to emerge because they are the right people within the circle of the people that should lead this nation.
Are you yearning for a return to ideological parties like it used to happen in the past?
Yeah, if this is best for us, why not?
And so we have these two biggest political parties. What are the major challenges that you feel, apart from leadership recruitment, that's making them not to achieve the mandate of Nigerians to change the political atmosphere?
Things that come from selfish ends are always difficult for people to let go. Again, we are used to business as usual. And for things to change everywhere else in the world, you need some good, conscientized people to now bend it and change it. I will not tell you these parties are owned by Nigerians. These parties are owned by just a few people clique around it who now ball the rest of Nigerians to just do what they want. Like I told you, how much of Nigerians are really active players in these political parties? So if one person decides who becomes what in the whole state, I listened to you while I was waiting. You were talking to one of the PDP, and he told you that they had decided, and they here is a circle of just few people who will now look at who becomes chairman of the party, who now becomes their presidential candidate, and so on and so forth. Is that a democratic process?
So how can Nigerians own the system, the process of electing a leader that's well acceptable by everyone? What are the alternatives that you're bringing on ground?
Yes, those of all the silver atom of conscience in us should come together in mass. That mass movement, with this criteria I spoke to you about, will compel now the true change that we want.
But that change must come through a political party.
Yes, a political party we will join.
So are you considering maybe your PRP or other smaller political parties will eventually merge into?
This thought will bend people to think. We have allowed things to rot we will cut below the rotten top and continue. This change, once people of credible people and people that that really matter and could force this change. And that is why as soon as we gather on that day, I think you were there, and you saw the caliber of people that were there. It sounded a bell that this time some people are serious And that's why you called us a third force, even when we did not declare to be a political party.
Yes, I mean, very interesting, because a lot of Nigerians say they're expecting so much. But in the issues of providing governance alternatives, for example, how do we resolve the issue of insecurity and then the economic issues that we're facing as a country? What kind of narrative are you bringing out to say this is the way things should be done?
These are the conversations, these are the main topics that we've had slated for conversations to the rest of Nigerians. So that over and over again, this is what will dominate, you know, our political discourse between now and time for elections. So that all the issues will now come out on board, not just what we are discussing at our RMP, but what the rest of Nigerians think.
Yeah,
so that we
and you know, I was
mend this country.
fascinated by that Rescue Nigeria project, focusing only on leadership recruitment being the major challenge. Yeah. And not focusing on these basic issues that we all want to. Why did you center it on leadership recruitment?
Because it's a priority. Because it's a priority. Once you get that right, the others will follow.
Is it only national leaders we're talking about? How do you permit to the leaders at the grassroots?
From top to bottom. And that is why I told you we cut from the rotten top to bottom. And when I say bottom, we mean all across.
But some of you who are in this group have served the government or these politicians in various capacities. So why should Nigerians think you're different from the politicians you have served in the past?
Because the mass recruitment, which we have embarked on, will bend it. These are negligible few, like I told you. Whether they have run to rescue Nigeria, and we have not invited people that honestly for now we are not sure that they stand for this cause. Maybe in due course because we are many, but I tell you the passion and the zeal which some of us have come out to do this truly and really will not allow the rot to take over.
Very interesting indeed. Yeah. We can only wish you here, well, all the way here from Arise. And we must thank you, Aisha Dankani, who's a member of the Rescue Nigeria Project, a group of intellectuals, academics, and all shades of Nigerians that are trying to rescue the country from what they say is the ongoing rot. We must thank you for coming on the show. Well, we'll go on this short break, and when we return, we shall be discussing the President's speech at the 76th United Nations General Assembly in New York. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week. I'm Samna Sambo. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari's speech during the United Nations General Assembly has dwelt on issues such as disparity in the distribution of COVID-19 vaccine that puts African countries at a disadvantage, instability in the continent fueled by sit-tight attitude of leaders, insecurity in Africa as a result of arms proliferation and merchants of war from the West, causing crisis on the continent. President Buhari tells the UN that though Boko Haram terrorists have been fragmented by internal strife and weakened by Nigeria's armed forces, the group is still active and preying on soft targets. He's promising that Nigeria will continue to work closely with UN counterterrorism bodies with a view to bringing the scourge to an end. The Nigerian president's speech dwarfed some protests outside the UN building by groups from the country that are seeking self-determination and good governance. Let's listen to Mr. President.
Remains deeply concerned over the illicit trade, transfer, and circulation of small arms and light weapons. Their excessive accumulation and uncontrolled spread in many regions of the world are having devastating humanitarian and socio-economic consequences, especially on the continent of Africa. It is on this note that my delegation calls for the worldwide application of the Arms Trade Treaty to codify accountability in conventional arms trade, which is critical to the security of nations.
All right, here with us to discuss President Muhammadu Buhari's speech during the United Nations General Assembly is Adewale Ajadi, who is a lawyer, economics and development expert based in the UK, but on a trip to Nigeria. Good to have you here. Let's talk about this arms proliferation that the president is talking about. It has been able to lead to, non-state actors having a lot of influence within West Africa and even around the continent, and it's been a problem. President Buhari is urging the UN to look how this arms proliferation could be cut so that groups like Boko Haram are not, reawakened again after being decimated.
This is a very critical issue. It has a very long history at the UN. If you look back, there was a time when the United States vetoed the decision of the rest of the world to stop proliferation of small arms. And if you look at the history in West Africa, it's actually very devastating. If you look at Sierra Leone, you look at Liberia, and then the recent disintegration in Libya has led to greater proliferation, down Mali, down to Nigeria. So you've got a range of problems. And the things that we call insecurity in this country is really fundamentally about people having access to arms and being able to destabilize. Because if it was one-on-one situation where people are fighting with their hands, it would not be as devastating as people having automatic weapons with multiple rounds to kidnap people, to attack communities, to destroy lives. So it's a critical issue. I think it's one that the president has rightly put up, like throughout his very nuanced and extensive speech. Okay, very interesting. Let's talk about the COVID issues that he was raising and how Nigeria and other African countries are battling COVID, but he wants, this production of COVID vaccines to, be done right in here. These countries should be supported to embark on those vaccines. Look at his speech alongside that of, Nigerians and many Africans who are still doubting the, existence of COVID. Many of them don't want to follow government regulations here and there. Yeah. Don't you think that the president was lifting this issue to the high burner when a lot of people say that hunger is the major issue, for example, in Nigeria, not COVID? No, it's a very nuanced approach he took. If you look at all the other African leaders that spoke, they majored on the COVID issue, attacking the West and other people for not having the kind of equitable distribution of COVID vaccines. Yes, it was very nuanced because it thanked the West and the rest of the world for what has been delivered, but it also mentioned the issue of fairness of access. Now address the skepticism that we have in this country. Yeah, with a lot of people saying that poverty is the real thing, not we're very COVID. Fortunate to be able to say that. Had we had dead bodies on the street as predicted by so-called experts, had we had many people dying, it would be the opposite thing. We are very fortunate, or you can say we're fortunate because of the Ebola responses and the preparation of the government for pandemics. And the consequence has been that we've handled this far better than could have been expected.
Yeah, I mean, the international bodies have been saying that Nigeria has done very well alongside some other African countries. And a lot of people are now focusing on some other issues that were raised during that UN. You had President Buhari actually having lots of bilateral meetings here and there. What would you say are the major benefits of those bilateral meetings that he had? Well,
I find it very interesting that there were bilateral meetings of, I think, the foreign minister with Venezuela and meetings with Iran. These are two countries.
Including the meeting with Queen Maxima of the Netherlands.
Yes. Well, Netherlands is our largest export destination for cocoa. And if you look at the figures of the agricultural exports, we're going in the right direction, which is very critical. So I would have thought that was a brilliant move. Because if Netherlands buy all our cocoa, actually by a factor of about 80 to 20, then we should build the kind of relationship with the Netherlands that continue. And we should do the same thing with Vietnam, who is the largest. We export, I think it's sesame seeds to, no, actually it's China sesame seeds to, and cashews to Vietnam.
Okay.
These are critical.
Very interesting indeed, especially in this era that we need a lot of foreign exchange.
We need revenue.
Yeah. Just very quickly, because we don't have enough time, I just wanted to talk about these groups that went to the UN headquarters to protest against self-determination. For self-determination, you have the group of, people who call themselves Ninas, group of Nigerians from both IPOB, the Yoruba Nation, and all of that coming. And then you also have some group of Nigerians who were in support of the government, saying that, look, this is not where we should come and, wash our dirty linens and all of that. What would you make? Because some groups actually tended to make it look like it was an anti-Buhari protest and not necessarily a protest requesting for self-determination.
Well, this is Nigeria. One of the things that we are is that we are very forthright in our views. We have a very robust democracy. You've seen a lot of your guests come in and talk about the different perspectives. My perspective certainly is this is one of the greatest nations that is going to emerge in the next few years in the world. We are going to be the largest country in Africa, the largest economy, and Africa is going to have 50% of all young people in the world.
But some people are saying that they want this country to be divided so they could have
this is what I'm trying to get to. I'm talking from my own perspective. Those people, to my mind, are going to find themselves at the worst end of the development of the world, because you cannot have ethnic enclaves that succeed. You can go back to the problems in South Sudan since independence. You can go around the world and look at it, but this is not unusual. Canada is still having problems with some of their regions. England is having problems with Scotland. So this is not a shocking thing, but I can say fundamentally, as we start to get mature in understanding our interdependence as a people, looking at our geographic location, looking at our endowment of minerals, looking at our interdependence on each other, it will be ridiculous in the face of an African continent that's opening up its market to everybody. It's economic suicide for especially landlocked spaces in Nigeria to say that they want to be independent. But let me finish by saying this. People hijack ethnicity. Nobody ever asked me, I'm a Yoruba man, nobody's ever asked me what my opinion is. They've never asked my family. What right do they have to go and demand a secession without ever consulting me? I think it's unfortunate that they think they have the right to do that.
Well, they think that they are doing what's best for that angle, for that section of the country. But well, it's all left to Nigerians and everyone to actually express their views the way they deem it fit, although lots of people have been saying that such protests were dwarfed by President Buhari's speech, and we didn't hear him addressing those issues and all of that. But we must thank you so much, Adewale Ajadi, who's joining us to take a look at these critical issues. And we must also thank all our other guests that we had earlier on in the show. And it's on this note that we want to thank you for watching another edition of This Week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambo.